All right, everybody, now that we're in my computer, let's just reiterate why we would want to do this. Well, most of the time, you're going to want your agent and the code that your agent is hosted at on the machine. Ideally, you would want this to be running at any time that the markets are open, and you need that machine running and connected to the market at any given time. Now, if you had a local computer, that's literally just having that computer on 24/7. If you're on like an FX market or crypto market, or turning it on, when the stock market's open between 9 and I think 5, right? But doing this locally on your own computer in your room might be pretty intensive on the computer itself. And by doing this remotely and hosting your agent in the cloud, you can create a really good development method that is specific to FinRL and training your agent, writing out code, and deploying it to a market. So that's one of the main advantages of hosting this in the cloud. We can install it. We don't have to go through something like Google Colab where we're installing it every single time. We just create a machine, install it, and we'll have a development environment ready for us to do whatever we want with it. And it's much easier to just turn on and let someone else take care of the maintenance of the machine itself. So basically what we're going to be doing is I will show you how to set up a machine with Paperspace, how to set up that machine's environment to download and install FinRL, and then how to connect to that machine and open up a Jupyter notebook. And we're going to be able to do this all through SSH. I've found that the tutorials on FinRL are outdated and they really just don't work. But really, it just came down to making sure everything was up to date from the point of the tutorial that was written that I based this on. So let's just go ahead and get started. I've got Paperspace open here. All right, so once you've created your profile and you're in machines here, just come over to Create Machine. And we'll want Ubuntu 20.04. I've tried this on ML in a box, and just for whatever reason, we need different versions of Python, and the way they've set up their environment with ML in a box isn't conducive for FinRL. So we're just going to start with a blank slate using a SSH access only terminal with Ubuntu. Standard gigabyte is fine. 50 gigabytes is fine for our case. I'm on the West Coast. We'll do SSH key. I can show you how to do this. Set this up. You will need to generate an SSH key, come into your profile, and add it in order to make this work. Click on Advanced Options. We'll call this Machine FinRL. We'll create a public IP. And we want it to be static so that we can connect to it each time without it changing. We'll start on create, and it'll only cost us about 50 cents per hour. Click create, and it will begin provisioning our machine. Now, I mentioned that you'll need an SSH keygen, or I should say an SSH key. If we go to our account, SSH keys, you can see I have some here. These are me just like playing around. You'll want to add it to here, and it should work. And you should be able to get into your machine from there. So let's go back to our machines. It's still starting up. Let's just wait for that to connect, and we'll get started. Okay, so it's on. It's ready. The next thing we'll need to do is connect to your machine. We'll just copy that there, bring this down. Let's paste it in there. Yes. All right, so now we are connected. The first thing we're going to want to do is sudo apt update. It'll update our machine for us. Basically, at this point, we need to install Anaconda, which is really popular data science and machine learning sort of aggregated environment setup that will install most of the dependencies we'll need to get started, like Jupyter Notebook. It'll install all the NumPy and Pandas and all those good packages that we'll need for our environment to work. To do that on Ubuntu is kind of intensive. So once you've updated it, everything forward will just be getting Anaconda onto this machine. So I've got a handy notepad here with all the steps required. We've updated our machine. The next thing we're going to do is install curl. Every once in a while, it'll say if you want to continue, just hit yes. The next thing we'll need is to install a lot of different library context packages to help us get the repo and install the repo. So we can just do that like so. Now you can see here there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can either pause the video here, type this all out, or I plan on leaving basically this notepad ready for you to visit and look at via, I think, Google Colab. I'm still trying to think of how I'm going to host this on the internet for you all to access it. But the same commands will be listed in the video. Depending on when you watch this, there might be some more updates that need to be made. But until I start getting a lot of basically comments that telling me I need to update this, I'm just going to post it on the internet, maybe like in a Google Docs or something for everyone to follow. But I digress. Basically, the next step is to install all these different packages. It does take a little bit of time. Be sure to hit yes when prompted and just wait for it all to get installed onto the machine. Fantastic. So next we are going to grab the repo where Anaconda is hosted. You want to make sure you have the most up-to-date Anaconda version at the time of this recording. That's 071 2023 Linux 8664 SH, right? Yeah, this took me a while to figure out. I don't know why it took me a long time to figure out, like, hey, maybe I should update the Anaconda package. Basically, the structure for this tutorial was based on the instructions that are on the GitHub repo for FinRL, but I'm guessing that they wrote that a long time ago. So it's the same structure, but we've updated a lot of the commands on that tutorial to be what we need for today. So now that that's installed, that didn't take too much time. The SHA-256 sum just makes sure that the basically what we've downloaded from curl is the proper encryption code. I don't know too much about SHA, but basically you just want to make sure that this matches up with the right Anaconda, I guess, repo. And you can easily find that. You just search Anaconda 3 2023 07 SHA, and there's an index that will pop up on the internet. But I've done this a few times before, so I know that this is right. The next line here is actually going to install Anaconda. So just bash Anaconda, and then the repo number that you want, 8664SH. It'll say, in order to continue installation, please review the license agreement. hit enter. Now, if you enter too far, you'll have to start over. So just kind of go carefully, if I remember correctly, like where I need to slow down and make sure I don't hit enter past the point of no return. It's okay if I do pass it, because then I can show you what I need to do. I know export cryptography notes is where you kind of want to slow down into, yes, okay. So be sure not to hit enter when you get to this part. Do you accept the license terms? Yes. Press enter to confirm the location, home, paperspace, Anaconda 3. Yes, that's great. And we should hit enter, and it'll now unpack the payload that we've just downloaded and installed, and it will begin installing Anaconda onto this machine. This part takes a good amount of time, so I'll either speed through this part or just cut and go to when it's finished. But let's just sit tight here and wait for this to install. That was really fast. Do you wish the installer to initialize Anaconda? Yes. There we go. So even though it says, do you want to do it to initialize, and we've hit yes, you still need to make sure that you actually initialize it. And the way we do that is using source bash rc. Now we are in Anaconda. You'll see base next to paperspace at PSP 6BBR9X. That means that we are actually in Anaconda. We can check to make sure by hitting conda info, and we should get all the information about Anaconda in our machine. So Anaconda is installed. The next part is to get FinRL set up. And what we need to do is, this part's really important. You need to install Swig, and this will help us install a lot of basically packages that are coming from C++, and other packages that are essential for OpenAI, because we will need OpenAI to run FinRL. So be sure to install Swig. It doesn't take too much time, but I found on the internet doing some research while trying to figure this out that Swig is really helpful when trying to import and install a lot of OpenAI packages. So let's just wait for that to figure itself out, and then we'll actually install the OpenAI software that we'll need. Oh, and it looks like it's waiting for cache lock, could not get lock. It is held by process 4696. This isn't something I've seen before. Oops. Does it just need more time? All right, so for whatever reason, that didn't work. Let me just try again. There we go. Yeah, it looked like it was just having a hard time getting the cache lock. I don't know what that means, but I just, ran it again, and I got to where I need to be. Yes, that's what we want. Let it do its thing. It's installed now. So at this point, we are ready to install OpenAI, which is a requirement for FinRL. If you look in the tutorial, it'll be cmake, lib, open, mpi dev, python 3 dev, clib 1g dev, libgl 1 mesa glx. You need to make sure that gcc and g++ are also a part of this install code. That's super important, and fingers crossed that this works. It should, but this is where you'll likely come into problems. But make sure that you have GCC, G++, CMake, lib, OpenAI, MPI, dev, Python 3 dev, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Make sure that you have Swig installed before you do this, and make sure that you've got base, that you're actually using Anaconda, right? Hit yes, and it will start downloading quite a few things. Excellent. So it's installed all the necessary pre-requirements to the base of our machine, which is perfect. Now it's just like system-wide installed. So if we remember, let's do conda info. So actually, let's do Python version. We have Python 3.11.3. And if you look at the FinRL PyProject TOML file that will help us build the wheels to install FinRL, it requires a Python that is between 3.10 and 3.11. So using 3.11 will create an issue, and if we're using 3.9, it will also fail to install. So we need to create a virtual environment where we are using Python 3.10. So to do that, we can do conda, excuse me, this is why I like copying pasted. We'll do conda create dash n, and then where it says Pi 310, this is the name of the environment that we want to create. So you could call this FinRL, you could call this whatever you want, machine learning, whatever the hell you want. Pi 310 is what I call it because when I was trying to figure this out, I needed an environment that, let me know that we are using Python version 3.10. And then Python equals 3.10 Anaconda. It will now set up the environment. This part also takes quite a bit of time because it's making sure that all of these other dependencies that have just come up on my screen fit with the version that I want to use. It's going to do all these cool animations about setting up the environment. Now, this is virtual, so this is perfect because we can essentially set up all of these different packages within the environment without messing up our system environment. So what Anaconda does is it has a folder of environments in its path that stores the different dependency versions that we've created. In this case, we're setting up Python, versions 3.10 and all of the subsequent other packages within Anaconda that are compatible with that version of Python. Instead of, for example, just downloading and installing everything system-wide and whether it's part of our path or not, we're going to come into a lot of problems. So this is one of the huge benefits of using a virtual environment. And I'm sure some of you who are familiar with Anaconda already know this, but this is the way I figured out how to best set up a project for FinRL, because if you install FinRL outside of a virtual environment where you're not using Python versions 3.10, it's just going to fail on the install there. So for me, this seems to be the best workaround, and it looks like we are set up. So it says, to activate this environment, use conda activate Pi 310. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's go over here. Let's grab that piece of code. Let's slap them on in there. And now you can see that the base, where it says base paper space, has now changed to Pi 310 paper space. That's how we know we are in this virtual environment where we're using Python versions 3.10. So the next part is finally where we will install FinRL. And the way we do that is pip install git plus our link to the repository. Let's hit enter and let's keep our fingers crossed that everything was set up correctly and I did not lead us astray here, because that would be extremely frustrating. Okay, it worked. Amazing. So we technically should have FinRL installed on our machine here. And you might be asking, well, how do we really know? We actually need to start using FinRL to actually know if it's on there, right? So connecting to a Jupyter Notebook via SSH isn't that difficult. Basically, from here, we'll just want to type in Jupyter Notebook, no browser, -- port equals 8080. It will initialize, and what you'll do is you'll open up another terminal outside of Paperspace, and we'll do SSH-L 808 localhost 808. And then we will need this guy, the name of our computer here, name of our machine that we are SSH'd into. Hit enter, and it will bring us back to that SSH, right? But if we open up this link here, we are now SSH'd into our Paperspace machine running Jupyter Notebook. So let's do new Python, and let's go find tell you what, let's go to FinRL GitHub. Let's look at one of their tutorials. Let's do maybe this one. And let's see if we can import one of the packages here. So let's do these three and see if we can get it working. So technically, because we have it installed, importing these packages should be fairly straightforward. And there you go. You see, we can now use these packages. It's installed on our virtual machine. You can now run Jupyter Notebooks from your machine, SSH'd into it, open up a Jupyter Notebook, and you will have basically an environment where you can do whatever you want. Once you've trained and got it running, got an agent where you like it, you can then host it on this machine to connect to another market where you can begin trading using your agent. Those videos are a topic of the future. For now, I just wanted to get this set up so that you could work without having to always install it on Colab and save your work in a machine that's dedicated to you at a really cost-effective way. Like I said, it's only like 50 cents an hour to use this. And yeah, you should be good to go. I hope you found this tutorial really helpful, and I spent a lot of time working on it. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments if I missed something, or if there's some redundancy here that can make things easier. If you have questions, please let me know. And again, all of the steps to do this is going to be hosted on a link in the description. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.